You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk, the first live streaming webcast from East Greenbush, New York. Good to have you with us this morning. It's very rainy here in East Greenbush and all of upstate New York. And unfortunately, it looks like it may be raining through this entire holiday weekend now. In fact, I see rain right through to like next Wednesday. Hope that changes soon. Hope it changes where you are. Hope you're going to have some great plans for the holiday. My golf and barbecues may be a little soggy. Hope not the same for you. Listen, we're live on Northeast Streaming Sports Network. We're live on TGI Sports Talk on both Facebook, YouTube, all the podcast outlets, obviously, Spotify, iHeartRadio, to name a few. I want to thank first my guest from last week, Warren Brewster. We had a nice conversation, great conversation, and we had a few technical difficulties with Warren's phone, but we got those straightened out, and I think it was very well received. And I think Warren had some great stories, from the 70s, and obviously he and his wife are doing some great work with the Tug McGraw Foundation now. And also want to thank all the groups that allow me to share this to you today. So thank you, and getting ready for this holiday weekend. I thought we'd kind of look at the Major League Baseball season as we near the halfway point. We're very close if we're not there yet. My guest today will be Kevin Kernan, who we've had on several times, one of my favorite guests. Kevin is a long-time sports writer for the New York Post, over 23 years there. He worked in San Diego. He's currently with ball9.com doing some great stuff there, guys. If you're not checking out the articles from Kevin and the others on ball9.com, you're really missing out. There's some great long pieces there that I think you'd really enjoy if you're a baseball fan. So please do that. And I guess with that, I will bring in America's most beloved sports writer, Kevin Kernan. Good morning, Kevin.
Absolutely, Keith. Yep, AMBS, and it's and that's a nickname that I didn't give myself. Another writer gave it to me, Andy McCullough, who's now with the Athletic. We were at Fenway Park, and I took a nice selfie, and I showed it to him. He goes, it was the 100th anniversary of Fenway Park, and it was America's most beloved ballpark. So that's where he came up with the name, America's most beloved sports writer. And just so everybody understands, it's true, because there's many people who love me, and it's also true in the fact that I'm not afraid to take on people and write what I think is the truth, and you'll see that every week at Ball9. I write twice a week for them, and great, like you said, it's really amazing stuff. You don't see this many. You don't see if you look through the media nowadays, pretty much it's all the same type stories. Nothing very unique, and we try to be unique, and we try to tell a great story. And when people need to be hammered, they get hammered, and that's the way it should be, because we love sports. And that's what people don't understand. We have a passion for it, and when we see things done wrong, and right in New York's backyard, the way the Yankees are, and even the Mets to some degree, I'm not afraid to take it on. So that's who we're about, and that's also got my 4th of July.
I see you are in full regale this morning. Very nice.
Well, like John Sterling, I was born on the 4th of July, like George Steinbrenner. So,
happy birthday early to you.
Yes. So everybody have a great 4th of July, and let's celebrate America and the flag.
America and the flag, and let's have some good baseball for a change, right? I mean, you're right. I agree with you. It's funny because I find myself, both on my shows, when I have some of the guys from the 70s and that era, and we talk about the game today, and even the vlogs I do, and I find myself getting very negative and feeling very negative sometimes at the end of it. And I get responses back that if you don't like the game, don't watch it anymore. It's not like, as you and I have talked about, I love the game just like I did before. I just don't like the direction we're going, and I'd like to see some things change if that's still possible. So I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah, I mean, you talk to the players in the '70s, and I talk a lot of them. I know them all.
Yeah.
I started covering in 1977 and did all the sports, did football and basketball. One of the few guys who had a beat on all those three sports. So, whether it's Larry Bird or, a player from Reggie Jackson,
Yeah.
or and football players too, going all the way back to Phil Simms when Phil was a rookie, I covered him. I don't think you can deny it that those players from the '70s and '80s and into the '90s, Tony Gwynn, those guys, they had more fun playing the game because
Yeah.
it was more of a game. And everybody knows I take on the nerds, and the nerds have ruined the sports across the board pretty much.
Yeah.
The NBA now is a 3-point shooting contest. It's hard to watch. The NFL still has, some great things about it. Everybody gets pumped up for a big NFL weekend. And baseball, if they would just let the guys play the game, it would be a wonderful event.
Yeah,
they
there's
don't
just
play the game. They don't let them play
Yeah.
the game.
one thing I talk about a lot is that there's like no feel for the game anymore from the managers, from the players. When you watch them run the bases, there's just like no, and again, feel for the game and knowing where you are at a point in a ball game is what's sorely lacking to me today in so many ways. And it's because of all the analytics, right?
Exactly. And you can't make it a science experiment. And do you think all these managers suddenly don't know how to play the game? No, but they're being puppets.
No.
They're all puppets. Like one of the columns I did last week, I did Dave Tremblay. Dave Tremblay is a 42 years in the game baseball guy who went back to the Appalachian League because MLB ruined the Appalachian League. And now it's a college league. And Dave is managing in that league. And he has a couple of good coaches, Larry McCall and Gauthier, Barbaro Gauthier, who played for the '84 Tigers. And they went back with the agreement that there would be no wristbands, there would be no flashcards out of the hat. You got to teach kids the instincts of the game, and all you have to do is watch base running or plays on defense. Like here's what they're doing, and this is the thing that bugs me most of all. Nobody fights back on this. They're taking away great memories from us.
Yeah.
And, I have great memories. I'm older. But, like these no-hitters, a guy may have 80, 90, who knows, whatever pitches. They find a way to finish the game if you have a no-hitter. Don't take them out so much because everyone remembers a no-hitter. July 4th, Dave Forgetty's no-hitter.
One of the great ones, yeah.
Years ago. But those are memories that we have. And now memories are even great plays. Something simple. At the Braves and Mets game last night, there was a ball hit that should have been a double play, but the second baseman and shortstop were in such close arrangement. The shortstop went for the ball when and the second baseman went for the ball. Nobody covered second base. I mean, you're talking about baseball. If nobody covered second base in a little league game, you'd say, "Hey, cover second base." But these guys don't cover second base in a major league game in a critical part of the game, and nobody says a word. That's how crazy this game has got, and that's how far the nerds are taking the game off the path.
Yeah,
and it's got to change. It's got to change, and one team, one owner has to have the guts to change it.
You mentioned no hitters, and so let me kind of start there. I mean, obviously it's funny. You're either excited, you're up in arms about the fact that, in my mind, we've already set a record for no hitters because how they don't give Madison Bumgarner credit for a no hitter when he's got no chance to pitch more innings is beyond me.
No common sense. That's the thing. They've stolen common sense, and this is what I say, and I may irritate people, but the hell with it. The elites.
I wouldn't worry now.
Yeah, the elites have taken over baseball management, and they are treating us like idiots.
Yeah.
Like you said, Madison Bumgarner pitched a complete game. We don't agree to 7-inning games. I'm not a fan of them. Hate him.
No, me either.
But it's not, he did all he could do. He pitched a no-hitter. And some elite in New York City, Manfred is going to tell me it's not a no-hitter? Shut up. It's a no-hitter. What the hell is it? But they treat us like idiots, and what do? We just gladly accept it and move on. Oh yeah, it's not no hitter. There's only, I don't know, what are there, 7 or 8 now? You lose count, but don't want to get off sidetrack. But that's my point on no hitters right now.
Yeah, and the fact that there's so many, I mean, to me, and Rob Manfred, obviously, when it happens and offense is down, we're blaming the baseball and we're blaming the sticky substances that the pitchers use, but why don't we're not addressing the things, to me, that are really the cause for these no hitters, and that's the way the game's played today, right? We hit into the teeth of shifts, we worry about launch angles and exit velocities, and we don't hit them where they aren't. That's what's leading, as much as all those other things that Rob Manfred thinks is a huge problem, as anything else. We don't teach hitters how to play the game the right way.
No, exactly. And this is not, and I don't know if I use this line, but it's worth mentioning again. I'll be 68 this weekend. I'm technically an old man, but I still think young. This is not an old man yelling at clouds. This is an old man yelling at a thunderstorm right above him. And when guys won't take a base hit, when everybody's on one side of the field, could you imagine, like Field of Dreams? We all love the movie and stuff like that. Could you imagine if we do a new Field of Dreams now, and these guys came back to the Iowa cornfield and the game, and they're watching the old timers, the legends of the game, are watching, like, say, a game now, and they would say, like, Joe Jackson might say, "Hey, how come there's no second baseman?" Or how come we're playing with 3 second basemen? Why doesn't, and we Willie Keeler would say, why don't they just hit it over at shortstop? There's nobody there. Hit it where they ain't. So the game has become absurd to some degree, and the fact they won't attack, and this is why I don't look at it as being a sign of weakness. I look at it as a sign of strength. Why won't they attack the weaknesses in the defense?
Exactly.
If you really had to boil it down to one thing, that's what we're talking about. Attack the weaknesses in the defense. And I get it. You're not going to take, because they shifted on Ted Williams. You're not going to take your slugger and have him bunt. But you may, on occasion, if you're down a run or 2 runs and it's wide open, have them hit the ball the other way. And until they change that, and I do see some things where it's changing. I've talked to some people. I'm very close to a lot of managers still. And some guys want to change it. I won't mention any names, but we're talking some big name managers want to change things a little bit, but they're not allowed by their analytics department. And that's another thing too. It's like Tim Flannery told me this, and he told me this years ago, and I love it. He said, this is when the run of, and I still speak to Timmy. This was during the Giants' run, 3 and 5 years. Which, by the way, I predicted. I told Brian Sabian in 2010 you're going to win 3 of the next 5 World Series. And if you ever have Brian on, he'll say it's the truth. Because I saw what they had coming, including Bumgarner.
I'd love to. Give me his contact information. I'd love to have him on.
Yeah, including the fact that that front office would make changes if they needed it and bring in a guy like Marco Scudero, who was a great trade. Those are the little things that make a difference for the team. So I knew they were going to win 3 of the next 5, and you had Bochy. So those things happen. So Flannery once told me, he said, we're sitting around BSing at a game, one of the playoff games, and he goes, "Hey, I got a question for you." I said, "Yeah, what's up, Flan?" And he goes, "How come analytics departments never get fired? Managers get fired, coaches get fired, it's the hitting coach's fault and this and that. Analytics departments never get fired because they all build in excuses." They all build excuses. But I don't want this to be a bitch session, but that's basically, I think those points need to get out there so the fans start looking at the game a little differently instead of being led along like sheep.
Yeah, I agree. And when offense is down a little bit, it's easy to blame the baseball. So, yes, I hope they made some adjustments to the baseball. There's still lots of home runs. I look at the home run leaders. They're all in the 20s. It's not like they're not hitting home runs, right?
And the Braves scored 20 the other day. And the Cubs and the Brewers had like a 25-run game or whatever it was. And I believe me, Keith, if you tried, you could score you could score a run an inning easily if you just went against the shifts almost.
Exactly.
They refuse to do it. And again, getting back to the points of the games that have changed, every time Manfred makes a stupid change, and they're all stupid, every one of them, don't agree with any of them. Then use that as use that to its best advantage for you. And the sticky substances now, If I'm a pitcher now, what I'm doing right now is I'm learning to command my fastball. That's what I'm doing, and they
Yeah.
don't do. You now have a legion, and I'm going to say legion of pitching coaches who believe in sequencing. Because they're nerds, and I'm going to get to the root of the problem here. Because they are nerds, they don't get it that somebody might just be better than that person, or they might be better that day than that person, even though that other person is better overall.
Right.
So they refuse to work with strengths. Some teams do. I think the Rays do a pretty good job of getting a player's strengths and going with it. But most of the teams don't. So you get a guy like Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole's got great stuff, even with without the sticky substances. And they talk to him about sequencing. Next thing you know, he's winning a game, first outing of the year, 2-1 against the Blue Jays. He throws a crappy slider to Teoscar Hernandez, home run. Now he doesn't. So now he's in this sequencing. He doesn't command his fastball. He plays the Red Sox. Big challenge. To me, that was a big challenge. Being up in Fenway, this is like the first test. You know, we always hear, and I love the guy Michael Kay and stuff. We always hear about Yankees stepping up to their moment. This is his Yankee moment. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Well, that was Cole's Garrett. Garrett Cole's moment could have been there against the Red Sox. Shut them down, make a statement, move on. But what does he do? He just throws a get me over fastball to Kiki Hernandez, and I don't care about the velocity. It's location. Throws a fastball. That's a home run. Later in the inning, if you know anything about Devers, Rafael Devers, he's a great hitter, but he'll get frustrated if you walk him a little bit. So you pitch around him here and there, and you get the upper hand. They don't think like that anymore. And instead we get the fastball right down the middle, 100 miles per hour, and it goes out goes out faster than it came in. Because the nerds want him to work on trying to outsmart the hitter or beat him mentally instead of just saying, here it is, I'm beating you. Let me see you hit this fastball low and away. So that's where we're at.
It's funny that, and I've talked about this a lot, that with the sticky substance, and you look at pitchers and hitters been looking for edges on each other for whatever, 125 years, however long we've played, 150 years, however long we've been playing the game. And every rule change, and it's not just Rob Manfred, right? Because this goes back to 1968. Every rule change favors the offense, and the hitters and the pitchers have been put at a disadvantage over and over again for 50 years. And this whole thing with the sticky substance kind of drives me nuts for a couple of reasons. Pitchers find an advantage. Whenever they get a little bit and get ahead a little, they want to take it away from them. Secondly, baseball's mandate is we got to speed up the games. And now we put in more rules that slow the game down. And it just drives me nuts when I watch what went on with Max Scherzer last week and some other instances. It's crazy.
Well, see, you're an intelligent consumer, so you're questioning those things. And this gets back to my original comment about fans starting to question some things that don't make any sense. Like, we speed the game up, but we're slowing it down by checking these guys all the time, or having them change the way they do things. Well, how about the fact that Rob Manfred got rid of the seams on the baseball? I have a bunch of baseballs right behind me, and these are some of the older balls. This is a Manfred ball from a couple of years ago. These seams are a lot higher. So that's how the players can control it, and whatever they pitch. So he gets rid of the seams on the baseball, and pitchers have to find another advantage, and they went stickies. And of course, and I'm not a big, I played baseball through college. I was a good hitter, so I don't like pitchers. Let me get that out there right now.
Who does?
Yeah, who does? Exactly. So pitchers are going to take any advantage they have and going to go the other way with it and go as far as they can with it. This is why people don't like pitchers for the most part. But I will say this: that's a great point you make about everything favoring the pitcher. I was talking, and I can't mention his name because I don't want to get him in trouble. But this guy was a very good pitcher, won a bunch of World Series, was a pitching coach. Great. Hung around a long time in the majors. And I was speaking to him 2 weeks ago. I happened to run into him, and he was saying, and they always say, hey, I got a question for you. And that means that, that they've been thinking about something and they want to talk about it. He goes, hey, how come Rob Manfred, with all the people he has around him, advisors, and if you look at the list of advisors, first of all, the close advisors, none of them really ever played in the majors or anything, so they don't know what they're doing. And but the ones who are former players, most of his advisors are hitters. He goes, how come Rob Manfred never gets any? We need to get more pitchers as Rob Manfred's advisors. And that was a great point, a great simple point, because Manfred has, the guy. If you just look at the list of people he has around him, they're all ex-hitters, and Ibanez, people like that, and good people. I know Ibanez very well, but he overreacts to everything, and that tells me that's someone who doesn't know the game and is just grasping at straws. And he's trying to change everything about the game. He's changed everything about the minor leagues. He'll the only good thing I will say, Keith, the one good thing is I think both Manfred and the Players Association have the common sense to realize that if they go on strike next year, if the players go on strike or they're locked out, that's the end. That's the end. So I don't think they will. But that's where we're at. There's still some great things in baseball. There's things I love. I'm a Tatis fan. I love what he does. I love how certain players play the game, and most of the players try to play the game the right way. And it's a little depressing in New York with the way the Yankees are going, but maybe they can turn it around. I doubt it because they have too much of a right-handed hitting, no speed, no defense, no baseball common sense lineup. And that's GM Brian Cashman, who has won one World Series in 20 years. So we're right there.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. We'll start there, I guess, as we start to talk about the actual baseball and the actual first half of the season here. The Yankees have been we say a major disappointment, but and I think you may have brought it up in one of your recent articles. Maybe they're just a mediocre team, and that's all we have to look for because, as you said, guys playing out of position, situational baseball is non-existent, and instincts on the base pass is horrible. And I think everything's coming from Brian Cashman down. And somebody was trying to defend him the other day and how they won a World Series in 2009. I'm like, well, they've been in one World Series and as you said, almost 20 years now. And that's not acceptable in New York. It's barely acceptable anywhere, especially when the Red Sox have been done as well as they have in that 20-year span. So what's the answer in New York? I think Cashman has to go, and I almost think Aaron Boone has to go, but it might be too harsh on Aaron Boone, given what he's had to work with. But what are your thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah, exactly. First of all, the stat I use that really puts it in perspective, and this shuts them all up. When they say stuff about that. Brian Cashman has won as many World Series since 2003 as the Marlins. Okay, one. That puts it all in perspective.
Good point.
End of argument. That's it. And Brian, what does Brian always say? And I've known Brian so well through the years, and I personally like Brian. I'm sure he doesn't like me now because I've been on his case pretty harshly, but deservedly so. And but Brian used to surround himself with baseball guys. Again, it gets back to who you're hanging out with. Now he surrounds himself with nerds that don't know the game, and they've created all these problems for him.
Yeah.
The thing about Brian is he was jealous of Billy Beane. Because Billy Beane had that great success, had the book Moneyball. I think that really freaked out, Brian in some ways. Brian wanted to be and he was looked upon as just the GM who did it with money, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's okay with me. If I'm winning World Series, say whatever you want about me.
Right.
Money, I'm doing it with money, but you do it whatever you got with it. And the A's and the Rays have both figured out, not that it wins World Series, because let's get back to Moneyball for a second. They haven't won a World Series since all this Moneyball garbage. And again, they forgot about in the movie. They forgot about the shortstop, Tejada, and the three pitchers, three aces. They didn't mention any of that, but it was all about some first baseman who was okay. And but again, Michael Lewis, great writer. He'll get on a subject, he'll go in a certain way, and there you go, and that's what you get. So Brian was jealous of Moneyball guys, jealous of the Rays, so he wanted to prove that he could win a championship cheaper. and then he made some changes, and they still spend $200 million. But let me go to one point, and we can move on any direction you want. But Shohei Ohtani, okay? And I mentioned in my column the other day, George Steinbrenner is still very active, according to a lot of people, because he's spinning in his grave like crazy. And Ohtani, he comes out. We all know he's going to be a great player. And the Yankees, one of the good things they've done, and give credit to Brian, when they got Matsui, they scouted it well. They got it done. And they should have known. First of all, they should have known he wanted to play on the West Coast. And once they knew that, they should have found a way to win him over to play in New York.
Yeah.
How do you not have the Yankees without a left-handed power hitter? This guy would have solved a lot of problems. Interestingly, now he didn't pitch well the other day, and maybe he would have been panicked in New York and he wouldn't have figured out, or it would have taken longer. I covered the Padres in San Diego. I covered the Yankees in New York and the Mets. There's a lot more pressure in New York. I get it. But that Ohtani would eventually step up. So Brian, they don't get Ohtani. So now, and here's the word I hate in baseball. They pivot. All the great, everybody's pivoting now. They're pivoting. It's not a pivot move. It's a panic move. They pivoted to Giancarlo Stanton. As I said in my column, they didn't go to plan B. They went to plan G.
Yeah.
And they pivoted to Stanton. Why would you pivot to a right-handed power hitter who can't run? Stanton is the complete opposite of what Ohtani is. Why would you pivot to that? You would pivot to the next best left-handed hitter and athlete that you could find, and you move on from there. So it's all a bunch of garbage about them telling you they pivoted. And anybody who writes that, they pivoted to Stanton. No, they panicked, and now Stanton has them in a hole financially, and no matter what the Marlins are paying, and they're in a hole physically. So that's just one small move, but it's a huge move, and it shows where the Yankees have gone wrong. The other thing is, I'll mention, I wasn't sick to my stomach, but being a baseball guy, knowing Corey Kluber, he's a tough kid, nice kid.
Yeah.
But I knew his college coach pretty well, and of course DeGrom was there. But you again, they pivoted to Corey Kluber. If you're hurt and you hurt your shoulder or whatever, you're going to be hurt at a certain age. And you got to look at that as gravy. You're not going to get anything out of that. But they counted on Corey Kluber. Brian signed Eric Cressy as his health and fitness guy. That hasn't worked out so well. So there's move after move after move if you just step back and look at it. And as for Aaron Boone, I like Aaron again. He was great at ESPN. He was fun to cover as a player. I was there when he hit the home run. But he's a puppet. Just admit it. You're a puppet. You're doing it for the money. You're not doing it because of what you love about the game and what you think about the game. You're a puppet. So once you accept you're a puppet, puppets will do anything. And that's where we are with Aaron Boone. So I actually believe that it's time for Boone and Cashman to both go, start over. And also how Steinbrenner has to look in the mirror, and maybe it's time for him to sell too. Because if he doesn't enjoy it and try to win championships, get the hell out. You're just collecting a paycheck.
I'd like your opinion on one thing. And I may be crazy in this thought. The guy that I would like to see in the dugout is Buck Showalter. Maybe I'm nuts. Maybe the game's, maybe he's too far past it. I just
I know Buck well too, and I know people who work for Buck, and Buck can be hard to work for, but Buck is at. let me put it this way. Excuse me. Buck, the Yankees are at a stage where they are ready for Buck, and Buck is at a stage where he's ready for the Yankees. So right now, that would be an interesting hire as long as you could control him where he didn't have complete control of roster decisions.
Right.
So you'd have to find the same type of GM with some kind of power and in the game where Buck wouldn't treat him like a puppet. But Buck would definitely get these guys back on the right instinctive work mode. Work on bunting, work on moving the runner over, work on cutoffs. I mean, could you imagine what Buck is thinking about Clint Frazier's throws from left field and right field of late? I mean,
Gosh.
we're missing by 20 yards. We're not even close to home plate. So that tells me two things. The guy panics as a defender because all he works on is hitting. And the second thing it tells me is that he never works on it. So when I covered Tony Gwynn, he would take a bucket of balls every time the team would go to like Pittsburgh or the East Coast stadiums where they didn't play a lot. First thing you do at 2:00 in the afternoon, he'd go out to right field. To have a coach hit a bucket of balls off the wall, maybe hit some pop-ups or fly balls down the line to see how it played.
Yeah.
Do you think Clint Frazier ever does that? Do you think Aaron ever makes these guys do that? No, that's the answer, of course. And Buck would get these guys on a right path, thinking baseball. So I do agree with you on that statement that he'd certainly make it interesting and his spring training because he's in charge of everything. But here's the flip side. People love to beat Buck, man. They love to beat him. I remember in a spring training game, I was in Arizona. I was out I got sent out to Arizona on an assignment, and because of my relationship with Bochy, it was a spring training game. So I happened to be in the manager's office before the game ended. I was just hanging out waiting for the manager, and so they happened to beat the Bucks Diamondbacks that day. So Bochy and Kevin Towers walk into the office, giving high fives like they just won a World Series game because they beat Buck. That's how opponents get to be about Buck because they despise him sometimes, you know. And but that's great competition for the game and good for Buck. That to me that speaks volumes about Buck, how he gets his guys to play, and vice versa. So it makes the game. And again, what are we talking about? Competitiveness. That's fun stuff. That's what we love to see.
Yeah, I'd rather talk about those things, rivalry between Buck and Bochy than, exit velocity and crap like that, right? So not to regress. You mentioned Ohtani before, and what are your thoughts on, I really think the Angels or wherever he ends up eventually at the end of his career, at some point he's got to be just a hitter because to me they put him and his career at risk when he's pitching. He's got some talent out there, but he's still really raw. And the chance of injury seem to be much greater on the mound for him than they do anywhere else. What are your thoughts there?
My feeling is if you're paying a guy, use him any way you want in that respect. And why not pitch? I think Joe Madden learned something. Joe's a smart guy. And if I had Joe here, I'd ask him about it. And I think he'd give me an honest answer. But my question would be, and again, this is what media does or used to do. My question to Joe Madden would be, Joe, any second thoughts? Or what did you learn today from leading him off and having him pitch?
Yeah.
And I think Joe would look at that and say, you know what, that's on me. I probably shouldn't have done that. He's probably, because he's thinking leadoff hitter. He's not getting the right mind to pitch. There's a reason pitchers hit ninth, even when they still in the National League they do. They don't in the American League, of course. But it's so they can focus on pitching. So I think if you divide the two up, I think it's okay. And this is why we hear a lot of people saying Ohtani should be a closer. I think we saw at Yankee Stadium the other day why he can't be a closer. Because, you got to command. You got to command. And he's not there yet. He's got to learn pitching. And again, that's what they do. Very good question because it opens up another Pandora's box, which that's all these nerds open up. They just move to one Pandora's box to the next. They don't move guys up as pitchers anymore with command. They move them up because of velocity.
Yeah.
So a guy's velocity may jump a few miles. He's throwing, he's hitting 98, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, meanwhile, the pitch is all over the place. When baseball was baseball, guys used to move up because they commanded their fastball and they moved up to the next level. Now, because of the nerds, they don't do that anymore. And Ohtani, to me, pitching-wise, and again, I haven't seen enough of him, but he needs a lot of work to pitch. So I put him in. I think for now that 6-day starter thing is okay, and I would consider DHing for him. Although I wouldn't right now. I would just hit him. I would hit him like 8th or 7th, and I'd push him down in the lineup, and I'd say, hey, focus on pitching today. We'll see how the hitting works out. Because if you remember that first at bat, he took some wild swings, and I think it kind of. A pitcher has to react a certain way, and his first couple swings were so wild that I think it got into his pitching motion. It sounds crazy, but I think I think that's what threw off his pitching motion. So that's where I'm at with Ohtani. If you're that good, you can do that stuff. I'm all for it. Go for it, and then we make adjustments as we go along.
Yeah, great. And that makes sense. And he is a great talent. And I want to see it maximized, obviously, myself, because it's great for baseball. Before we move off the Yankees, any chance this team's now 9 games out of first place and showing no signs of being able to rebound the way they're built now? I mean, do you think they're going to make these some big moves here before the trade deadline? Do you think they have any chance left in this season at all?
Well, they always have a chance, and I even ended the column with that the other day because baseball is so bad.
Yeah, well, it's true.
That's not. It's not like It's not like baseball is really good, and teams are going to run away from. Despite all their problems, what are they, like 5-6 games out of the second wild card? So that can be made up. Start playing well, but the question is, will they play well? They'll make little moves, and LaCastro move that was a move that shows you they're trying to add speed, which again, it's an admittance that they screwed up.
Yeah.
They're adding defense. The Tachman move was terrible in my mind.
Oh, he was a very valuable guy on the bench for sure.
Not only valuable on the bench, Keith, but I've been in the clubhouse with them. He's a little bit of I wouldn't say a ball buster, but he's a guy that stirs it up a little bit to a fun degree. He'll wear different T-shirts and he'll sit there in the corner and he's very. He'll make some comments that are very smart, and he's a good baseball guy, and he does all a little right. And you see what he's done for the Giants. That was a good move by the Giants because it gave them another really good outfielder. And he's not going to be a superstar, but he's a good quality player. What did the Yankees get out of that? They got a pitcher who can't command, another velocity guy, So, will the Yankees make the right moves? Big question. I don't know if they will. Are the right moves out there? The best move, the simple move, is get Trevor Story. Anybody can do that. If you have the right talent level. But 2 things going on with the Rockies. They're going through changes now, and Trevor Story likes being with the Rockies.
Yeah.
And if they, they may make the decision that he's our build-around guy, which they should make. So that would mean the Yankees would have to do some other things. But I said it, and you had me on the show. I said it way back when they got rid of Didi, they made a huge mistake. And if you get rid of Didi, you got to replace Didi with another a defensive shortstop and a left-handed bat. So the Yankees the Yankees are the definition of insanity right now, is baseball insanity, that is, because they keep making the same mistakes. They keep overloading the right-handed side. And here's a desperation move. When they trade for Odor, and I'm reading how Odor is going to help them so much and what difference he's made. First of all, I'm questioning the guys writing this. Like, have you ever watched the game? Have you seen it? He's a pain in the neck. He's one of those players. And I really and this is me personally. When he did his little Reggie Jackson imitation when he had a home run the other day, come on, stop it. Hit 200, will you? But they keep bringing in those kind of mindset players, so of course they stink, and Odor may get mad or he cares. You can tell he's like into winning and stuff like that, but he's just a little too much, so cut him down a little. You need players that play their role, play their position. You need to get Glaber back to second base.
Yeah, I agree.
Great shortstop, I trade for a short. That's to me, their number one priority is trading for a shortstop. The number 2 priority is getting their pitching coach, Matt Blake, to understand what a major league pitching coach does.
Yeah. Carlos mentions he can see him bringing Tanaka back, but I think Tanaka's done in the major leagues, and I think he's got a contract in Japan anyway, so I don't think that's a possibility.
Yeah, and I think Tanaka probably he's had enough.
Yeah, I
think he's loving life over there, and I don't know for sure. It wouldn't be, but Carlos makes a great point because what did Tanaka, for all his faults and the fact that his arm went bad soon after they traded. I was at that game when in Cleveland and stuff like that when things happened. Tanaka, he brought a level of professionalism that was huge. And here's where the Yankees don't think about things, and which makes a problem. Again, maybe Tanaka wanted to go back and they couldn't have gotten him back. But if I'm bringing Tanaka back simply to be a kind of a guiding light for Garrett Cole, and and he can teach, because Tanaka knows so much about pitching. He's a good guy, funny, good teammate. I'm bringing Tanaka back to help Cole weather the storm. Again, they don't think like that because they don't think like athletes. They think like spreadsheet guys. Like Tanaka may have lost something, so we can't have him back or whatever. So he's not worth the money. And that's the other thing. The Yankees are getting cheap, even though they're spending $200 million.
Oh gosh, I agree. It's we're the Yankees. We're not the freaking Kansas City Royals. I mean, just spend the money.
Makes no sense. It's not the Rays. And one quick thing, Rays. I once asked one of the owners, who I know pretty well, when they were going to lose Hein Bloom, and I said, "Hey, is this going to affect you, losing a couple guys in your front office?" And he said, "Nope, we'll just hire 2 more Google boys." That's what he calls those, Google boys, because we have a great development department. And to their credit, the Rays do that. They have guys that do what Hein Bloom did a good job, and then they have guys who develop players. That's another thing that's happened to the Yankees. They don't develop players anymore. We don't hear much about David Garcia anymore, huh? Did he fall off the face of the earth? What happened to David Garcia? Well, here's what happened to David Garcia. He's lost speed on his velocity on his fastball, and he's lost command, and he's a mess in the minor leagues with an over 8 ERA. So what's going on there? What are the Yankees teaching in their minor leagues? Who are their development people now? They've changed that out too. So they have measurement coaches, not mechanical coaches that can fix mechanics. They have guys who looks at the screens, can say something off a screen, or look at high-speed velocity and make a suggestion. But they don't have the same kind of coaches. I know, I won't mention the coaches now. I don't want to get in trouble. But there was one coach who did a really good job for them in the minor leagues. He left, and he's coaching somewhere else now. Another in the minor leagues, but he did a great job for them, and I could tell he got frustrated by the way they were doing things. So, and that means coaching. So it's all these little things that add up. It's not one thing; it's a lot of little things, and that's why the Yankees are in the place they're in right now.
Agreed. I can't believe the time is going by so fast again. Let's jump to the Mets quickly because again, they've got some of the same problems that other teams have, obviously. But I think Luis Rojas and the Mets in general have done and part of this is because, again, how bad baseball is and how bad the Eastern Division is in the National League, or how bad they've played. But I think they've done a really good job of weathering the storm of a lot of injuries to their to some key players in McNeil and Conforto, and the list goes on and on. So I think they have a little bit legitimate chance, especially with that division playing as bad as it is, and with DeGrom being just a tremendous pitcher in this day and age. It's too bad he doesn't get to pitch 9 innings more, because I can't imagine what his stats would be. But how do you see the Mets season moving forward?
Yeah, the Mets are interesting. First of all, let me apologize. I forgot my Ball 9 mug today, which has Louis.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so you can get that at ball9.com. And but the Mets are, like I said, told somebody last week, they're in. It's like real estate: location. They're in the right division.
Right.
The Mets have some problems too, and I want to be honest about that. They should have run away with this division. They didn't. The injuries are a tremendous concern, just like Yankee injuries. Why do these injuries keep happening? Why does Conforto blow out a hammy? I think it was a hammy, running to first base. That's what baseball players do. They run, they throw. Why are so many guys getting hurt running and throwing and doing baseball things? Because they don't work on baseball. So I'm going to answer my question. They're in the weight room. They're doing this. They're doing that. They don't work on simple things like just shagging balls and running more and stuff like that. So first, the injuries are a concern with me with the Mets. James McCann was a great signing. I think he's a baseball player. To me, he's what they needed to kind of keep that pitching staff together. Lindor will be okay. Lindor. I think Lindor. It's a tough adjustment going from a place like Cleveland to New York, and I'm giving this as an adjustment year for Lindor. Maybe he'll make some adjustments. Maybe New York will make some adjustments. one thing he certainly has to do is he's not a home run hitter, so stop with the big swings.
Yeah, he needs to stop criticizing the fans for booing him a little bit too. Just be quiet, go back and play.
Absolutely. That's why the fans are there, because they can cheer and boo. You do your job, let the fans do their job. And grow up, I think is the word we're looking for. But again, being in Cleveland, they don't understand any of that. And here's what I don't like, and this may rub some Mets fans the wrong way. I don't like that the owner is having dinner with all these guys. I don't mind an occasional dinner or maybe a group dinner, but bringing these guys to your home or wherever they go for these dinners, to me, that's a little, that undermines the manager. It could undermine a lot of things. It's good to get to know the guys and have some fun. That's a different story. Maybe you bring 3 guys at once or 4 guys up to dinner, but to have individual dinners with players, and I know players, I know them so well. I've been around them my whole life. They'll bitch about anything, and there's going to be some bitching there that isn't good for the team. So it's a small point, but it's a big point to me. I don't do that. I don't do that if I'm Steve Cohen. But the good news is that Steve Cohen has passion for the game. So again, he's learning too. So those are the things. So I think they should have went out more and spent more money and got more guys. And the Springer thing never worked out. But I would have loved to see Springer in New York. You can see how much they miss Nimmo too. Nimmo is an energy guy, so they need a little more energy. Nimmo gets hurt a lot. He's had some injury issues through the years, and but they still have DeGrom. DeGrom needs to pitch deeper in the games like he did yesterday, which was a good thing. He lost, but the Braves put up a fight again. That was a fun game to watch, and the Mets are entertaining. So the Mets are trying hard. They got emotion, and Lindor's emotion is good to some extent. Just tap it down here and there, like you say, with the fans. And they got to start hitting better, though, Keith. There's something going on with their hitting. I was a big fan, of Chili Davis and Tom Slater, the hitting coaches. I thought they both did a good job. And I thought that was a panic move. Again, getting back to my pivot, that was a panic move by the Mets. And I don't know anything about the new guys, but I do know the other guys were good. So, and I know players, it's really rough to change horses in midstream. And I think what Alonso said was pretty important. So hitting wise, they can be pitched to. I've talked to a lot of scouts about this, and I think you're seeing that. It's going to be a battle for them, but they'll be in the playoffs, and we see what happens. If they get hot at the right time, they'll be okay, but I do have my doubts about them.
Unless somebody else gets hot in this division, like the Braves. The Braves are one of the biggest disappointments for me. Let's talk a little bit about who do you see as some of the big surprises and big disappointments so far this year. But like the Giants are obviously a surprise on the good side, and the Braves on the negative side.
Yeah, the Giants, to their credit, they've gone a little more old school, and that's made a difference. They're playing baseball out there. Big ballparks like the Giants. The Rockies should do the same thing. The Rockies should get more old school. They should get good defensive outfielders, guys who make contact, create a almost like a St. Louis Cardinals from the '80s or whatever, when they going way back to the '60s, where Kurt Flood and Lou Brock, those kind. That's what the Rockies should be. So again, I'm disappointed in how front offices run their teams. The Braves are to me a huge disappointment on a couple levels. The GM didn't build a good bullpen. They're classic swing for the fences team. To have a shortstop, and I think he's got 85, 86. I don't know how many Ks now, but Dansby Swanson is swinging. Even last night, he came up in a big situation, struck out easily because he's swinging for the fences. They need to cut down their stroke, and they should be better than what they are. So that they've been at this. To me, one of the huge disappointments is the Phillies. The Phillies still haven't fixed any of their bullpen problems. You got to get a lot of arms especially the way they use bullpens. Getting back to how you run teams, why not? If a guy's pitching well, why not pitch 2 innings with him instead of 1? I just don't get it. It's like going to, and I'm not a big bettor, but it's like going to the casino every night and changing. You're winning at the roulette wheel. Let's go over and play. Let's go play something else. And you're gonna. They need everything to happen right. You need your 6. First of all, you need your starter to go 6 innings. Fat chance. You need your seventh inning guy. You need your eighth inning guy. You need your ninth. So you're betting on 4 things a night, and so that's a problem. That's a systemic problem with baseball.
Yep.
So that's another disappointment. The other disappointment to me is the Orioles and teams like that get a pass. The Diamondbacks, their GMs have been selling the same baloney for years, and they stink, and they're not getting better. It's a joke. How those fans, Kernan used to be one of the greatest places to go. What they've done to that franchise is a shame, and that comes down from top-down ownership. Padres are a great story. I think they're a positive story, but the Padres are one of those teams that have a lot of talent. They have things going well, but they think they're better than they are, and I've seen this time and again. They think they've won. They think they're the defending world champions. They need to step up quite a bit as well, and getting a guy, get some baseball players. There's a good job. Cronenworth has been a great addition for them. Those are fun players to watch, and I picked Acuna to be my MVP, and I would love to see Acuna go back to the guy who hit the ball the other way a little more, and I think he'd be that kind of player. The other disappointment is some of the things going on in the game, and we've talked about that. To me, I would say right now, looking at the game. Lavusa has been a positive, but he needs to really keep it going. That's a huge thing, because if he has success, that will open the door. And the other big positive I will mention is going to really upset the Yankee fans, but the Astros. The Astros have played well because of Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker's done a phenomenal job. I've known Dusty forever. He's 72 years old, thinks he's 17, and it's fun to be around. Keeps it loose, keeps it light, but is in charge. And that's what you need out of managers these days. And so I'm happy to see them doing well. One stat I want to throw at you. We all know about the Yankees in running scoring position. I looked it up early in the week. On Monday, the Yankees with runners in scoring position had 14 doubles all year. 14. I'm a big doubles guy. If you're hitting doubles, you're doing well as a team for me.
Right. I agree.
You're hitting the gaps. Maybe you're dropping in a duck fart here and there. But you're making contact. You're doing good things. 14 doubles with running in scoring position this year. I brought that up on WFAN the other day on Saturday night. And you know how many Astros have at that time? 48. The Astros had 48 doubles with runners in scoring position. The Yankees had 14. That stat alone, and that's why I like to take on the nerds stats too. That tells the story. So they did hit 2 doubles in the next 3 doubles with runners in scoring position in the next 2 games. But so maybe they're trying to clean it up a little bit. Maybe once I brought it to the attention in New York, maybe it became a thing. But until they start slashing the ball again, like the Astros are just looking to score runs, and they're playing with the chip on their shoulder. They got some injuries now, like everyone else. We'll see where it goes. Will their pitching hold up? But they've been a great story as well. So I'm sure I left these out. Milwaukee, I'm still on the fence about Milwaukee. Cardinals, big disappointment. I would say the Cardinals have been positive. Maybe they're the biggest disappointment in baseball. And, that team just shouldn't be where they're at.
Interesting with the Astros, to go back to your point there. I mean, their run differential shows that they hit when running in scoring position. It's far above anybody, I think, else in baseball, at least by 30 runs. And well above the Yankees, obviously, to their comparison. They're -3. The Astros are plus 132. You're doing something right. And also, everybody wants to talk about the sign stealing scandal and whatnot. I find it interesting. If I read this stat right a week or so ago, their batting average is better this year than it was the year they were stealing signs.
Yeah.
So it's got it.
They because they're not trying to hit everything out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
Going back to the Yankees, I think he's a free agent this year. Sometimes I get my years mixed up, but I love Michael Brantley from day one. Why couldn't the Yankees sign a guy like Michael Brantley? And he would have been a great addition. He's a baseball player, and the Astros have done that. Bregman gets a little carried away with himself sometimes, but he has a passion for the game. Altuve, same thing, and they just. And to do this and lose Springer and still be this good is very interesting. Toronto, we mentioned simply because from what I'm hearing, Keith, the Yankees have a big problem here going forward, because from what I'm hearing from my scouts friends is that the best organization they've seen in the minor leagues, deepest, is Toronto moving forward. So they already got good young talent at the major league level. If they continue to get where, if they had some, if they make a big move, if Toronto makes a big move, pitching wise, could be huge. Could be huge for them. And then the Yankees are in really big trouble. But Toronto's been a great story. I love what Vlad Jr. has done. He's really, I met him a few years ago up at the Cooperstown when his dad was getting inducted. Had a good conversation with him, and he's, he loves the game. He's made the adjustments. He's a good first baseman now. So credit to him. Fun to watch, and that's I don't understand how, with all that young talent, which was developed by the previous administration, of course, to some extent. But with all that young talent, how they haven't strengthened that pitching staff is beyond me.
It's funny that Vlad has lost a lot of weight and got himself in better baseball shape too, which makes a big difference. I was worried for a while he was going to eat himself out of the league, like Cecil Fielder Jr. or somebody, but he's really, really got himself in pretty good shape.
Yeah, he's a young kid. They need time to adjust, and I'm sure I bet you his father had a talking to him, and some other people did, and to his credit, he's done great, and that's what baseball needs. It needs players like Vlad Jr. and we mentioned Tatis earlier. So there's a lot of talent out there. There
is, and that's one of the things that keep me going, right? As far as my enjoyment of the game, there's a lot of young guys out there. There's a lot of talent, and it's really not the play. I mean, it is the players on the field, but it's not their fault because of the way that they're mismanaged from the minors to the majors, as you and I have talked about a lot. And it's exciting. I think we're going to have an exciting second half here and some fun races. And I hope some of the surprises stay where they are and some of the disappointments bounce back. And we'll have a great second half, and we'll talk more about it later in the season, perhaps, Kevin. And I appreciate you coming in again today. As always, we're usually on the same page. Only one topic I think we were off on, and that was O'Shawney, I get your point there. You maximize his talent. You're kind of foolish probably if you don't. So.
And that's the other thing. One last thing. That's what baseball is. You challenge these guys. We've gotten away from challenging them, and we're letting them run the show. And that's not the way it should be. Players, it's like a manager told me. Players love discipline. They want to be led, and because of the way the nerds are running the game, they're letting the players run the show too much. And in the end, the players lose because of that. So that's what we need to get back to too.
Well, hopefully we will. We'll get some guys like Buck back into the game and get things moving in the right direction. That's my mindset. So, Kevin, thank you. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I said I agree with Buck, and maybe the silver lining here will be some of these owners will wake up. And I wrote this column 3 weeks ago. And by the way, with the Yankees, just so everybody knows, second week of April, I wrote a column saying how much trouble the Yankees are in. I didn't want to hear what everybody else was saying because I saw different things. So maybe these owners will wake up and get baseball people back in the organization, not just a figurehead but true baseball people developing the organization. That would be my advice for the future. Get baseball people back in the organizations, and let's chill it a little bit with the 35-year-old elites from Ivy Leagues.
Yeah, it only takes a couple teams to do it and get successful, and it'll get copied, right? So that's all we need. Kevin, thank you for coming in. I'm going to wrap up the show. If you want to stick around or you got to run, that's fine. I always enjoy having you in. I hope we can do it again soon.
Anytime, Keith. Always fun.
Thanks, Kevin. Bye-bye. Kevin Kernan, longtime writer for The Post, as I said, with ball9.com right now. Great articles, guys. You can find it, again, just look up ball9.com. They've got a page on Facebook where you can read all the articles, and you can read Kevin's past articles. Great stuff. I forgot to mention to him, I wanted to bring up it. One of his most recent articles was a baseball man steps up. It's about Dave Tremblay, who's a lifetime baseball man. And we sit here and we complain about the game, but he's actually doing something in the lower minor leagues to try to fix the game. And read the article, and I think you'll enjoy it. So, guys, I appreciate all of you coming in today to watch and listen, Kevin and myself chat about the game, the first half of the season, and some of the problems we see, which are not new. and maybe even some light at the end of the tunnel. Thank Dave Gayette, Brett Cloutier, Carlos, as always. See you at the happy hour, Carlos. And whoever else I might have missed, and my dad, Bob Engel, great to see you this morning. Guys, I can't name them all. Thank you all for coming in. Everybody who watches this later on, thank you. Have a great holiday weekend. We will see you Sunday morning, July 4th, to do our Stream of Consciousness. Next week, my guest will be Darrell Chaney, former Major League shortstop with the Cincinnati Reds, world champion Cincinnati Reds, and the Atlanta Braves. We'll talk with him, and we'll have more coming soon. See you guys all later. Have a great 4th. Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk, right here on Northeast Streaming Sports Network.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.